So what do you do?
So it's interesting. It's basically you're a trusted artist, credential like artist that sit in front of like Van Gogh and just like copy it. But they're very careful about the selection process because they're allowing you to be like within a few feet of like the priceless work of art with pigments, you know. So they want to make sure that you're not gonna like get it dirty.
To be brutal.
Dude, yeah. But it's cool because every once in a while there's someone will be like copying a painting. And you can tell it's just like they do it like
They can do it some climate control there too, sure, right?
no, you just sit like in the general exhibits. So if you go to the National Gallery of Art, you go to like the like the main exhibits.
Yeah.
In most of the major rooms, like the impressionist room, like the Greco room or whatever, there's a easel there.
Yeah.
That no one's using.
Is that what happens when you eat? I was like, I used to be the biggest sweet tooth in the world. I had 5 cookies last night.
And so
These are very. I know these symptoms well. Like, what's up?
Practice. Yeah. It's like an ancient. That's how.
Oh, don't tell me that.
Have practice like down to
Yeah,
the ages.
because I've heard like sense over and over again.
Yeah.
Starting to, like,
I hear you know how they have a commercial purpose. Like there was a guy who used to like doing a live stream while he was like doing it. And there was a question as to whether or not he could because he was like, are you monetizing your live stream? He wasn't monetizing his live stream, he was just doing it just to like put it on Instagram or whatever.
Hold it up. I was like, oh,
So he didn't copy. Like I just want to just really go there and like
it's a garage, like a ship.
right.
Oh, that's awesome.
And the cool thing is you get a locker, so like you can copy anything and then have it there drying.
yeah, as long as you
So
don't
it's
want
like
it.
that ultimately is like the ultimate value add because I don't think anybody cares if you can go to a sketchbook and sketch it, but we have paintings it's like it takes so long to dry. Yeah. So it's a fun thing. I like stumbled across it. I was there with my ex-husband 2 years ago. And I saw somebody painting like impressions.
How are you?
How are you allowed to do this? And he explained it to me and I looked it up. And,
Reading Kent was a roommate, right? So,
yeah. Cal was actually not a regent. I thought she was a regent. She's not. It's Peter.
It's all about Peter.
Bozeman.
Not just for all of them.
It's like Chief Justice Roberts.
Yeah.
I
I
mean,
just
like,
started
not
this
great,
one.
but like, go ahead.
That's good.
Yeah. I thought Cal was regent, so I asked her. She's like, sure, whatever. But, yeah.
She's like, yeah, I'm ready to let him.
Yeah.
It's funny.
It was cool because like once it's like once you're in, you're in. Once you don't fuck out.
Yeah.
So
There's no like time interval if you're accredited. It's just you show up whenever.
as far as I know. Yeah. And again, like they're like stringent rules on documentation and on materials. Like one of the things that sucks is you can only have like you can only have like 2 ounces of mineral spirits, you know, which is kind of funny because you can do a lot of damage to like 2 ounces of mineral spirit even if it's like a tiny bit. But it creates a situation where you have to keep going downstairs until your solvents, you know.
It's sick. Honestly, that's a better. Like I think it's such a better format than all the pretty stuff that we did.
Right.
It's a really cool concept.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
Very, very, very cool.
All
right, I gotta run. Thanks for the call. I'll talk to you. Thanks.
Copies, so you have to make the closest copy as you can, creating like, you know, just as exact as a copy as you possibly can. There's some painters like Pollock or whatever, like if you're in college, that you can't really copy because they paint it on the ground.
Yeah.
So I don't think the copy is so allowed in there. Because
It's
polish is
like paint buckets.
yeah.
But that's the impression stuff is so cool.
Dude, I think so too. I think that's like the solution.
Yes.
So as long as you get the proportions correct,
There you
like,
go.
because the idea is like you're copying anything, JD. You're copying a painting that's basically like, you know, in the same size. So if the painting is like a 16 by 20, the idea is you show up with a 16 by 20 canvas. I've seen a couple times people doing like a smaller version or a bigger version, or like if they're trying to learn hands, they'll just like take like a canvas the size of the hands and adjust your hands. So it's like it's a lot of latitude. So
That's so
yeah.
well.
It's fun, yeah.
I don't know why
Right,
it's
it's
crazy.
you should buy, you should start
Yeah.
throwing down.
I'm like, if you're
Let's throw it to me. It's actually Kansas sauce.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's kind of wild though, because they have like $200 million paintings there that don't have a glass case. They're not in case. The National Gallery.
Attention passengers, flight 1234 has been delayed by 4 hours.
Flight delay, but we can't delay the insurance claim process. We know what to do.
सुना नहीं फ्लाइट डिले हो गई इंश्योरेंस क्लेम फाइलिंग में हेल्प चाहिए क्या
The smart payment feature of my travel insurance policy from Tata AIG app tracks flight delays automatically and initiates the claim instantly.
You're gonna go jack some up.
Now I'm gonna go copy them. Yeah, exactly. I was like,
You gotta get in there,
Dude,
man.
that's like awesome.
Gotta get in there, dude.
National Portrait Gallery has a lot of wall streets right now, though. They took down like all the black ones. So
That is Smithsonian.
yeah, downtown.
Amen. I never keep track of what's Smithsonian.
I was like, it's kind of an emergency.
Most, it's like
Most shit is.
Most shit is. Yeah, there are a couple that aren't.
But the portrait gallery.
Yeah.
No, yeah, of course, yeah.
Earthhorn, Native American, Museum of Black History.
Which
They're all
one?
just-
Well, I know that is.
Uh-huh.
I know those ones. Which one? Redwood is.
Redwood. Redwood. I don't think.
Corcoran is not.
Corcoran is not.
Corcoran's on my UW.
Yeah.
Because he used to.
Yeah.
School.
Okay.
And then I think the school at Arthur, GW bought it. That's the one right by the way.
Redwood is better.
Yeah,
Like right across the street.
Yeah. No,
yeah.
Corcoran is on 17th Street. Southwest.
Okay, copy. Yeah, no, I'm just
That sounds right.
yeah, press right.
No way, no way.
I'll feel it out. Yeah.
Dude, that's like appointment only. That takes like months to get an appointment. Apparently it's sick.
Yeah. Okay, cool. No, I appreciate the insight. All right, talk soon.
I have-
Good.
It's supposed to be awesome.
It's like one of the best private art collections.
No, but there's a, so the program called Copies Program at the National Gallery where they'll give you like basically like a pass to just copy paintings. That's cool. Yeah, so Ben, my letter of recommendation, along with Senator Spaulding. Hey, this guy.
Good morning.
Possible doing a grand.
We're actually, I think we're doing that as far as it's our 5-year anniversary in January, so we're doing great. Do your own Christmas party by yourself.
Me and my dog.
Yeah. I was in the middle. Hi, how are you?
We're just small one. Yeah.
I don't take anything for granted.
That's a different house, yeah. No, here, that's the head of healthcare. And I go back to it. So, there you go.
Right.
How was this?
It was good. I had 2 of them.
I did, yeah.
Family reunion.
Oh, that's fantastic. How about you? 2 Thanksgivings.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe I can't one of that. My girlfriend.
That's awesome.
So I just went and saw her for that one. Yeah, it was cool. Now I'm just kind of days for Christmas because I officially on holiday salary. Bill, is this your first speaker briefing? Second. Your first round? How many? Oh, yeah. So if you're walking down to each. Also, what is the regular road? There's like yeah. I thought this was.
स्वाद सुगंध का राजा बादशाह बनाए बढ़िया खाना बादशाह मसाला.
When you have the perfect response in your head, but your fingers just can't keep up. We've all been there. Typing, deleting, retyping. Now I use Whisperflow. I just think out loud and it creates perfect formatted text on any app or website. Whisperflow understood what I was trying to say and gave me the exact output I wanted. Check out the difference between this same sentence being dictated into Siri versus Whisperflow. Let's meet at 12 p.m. at Joe's Pizza. Wait, no, actually I can't do 12, so let's do 12:30. And instead of Joe's, let's go to Kelly's Diner. Whisperflow understood what I was trying to say and gave me the exact output I wanted. For longer texts like this email, it even formats it professionally, so it's ready to go with no editing. So much faster than typing. Whether you're writing in Gmail, ChatGPT, iMessage, WhatsApp, Slack, Cursor, or anywhere else, break free from your keyboard. Do you know how much time you'll save if you quadruple your typing speed? Try Whisperflow for free on desktop and mobile.
Speaker and Chairwoman McLean are in the green, guys.
Jay, good morning. Oh, I'm still happy. You're gonna like that. Actually, that's great. Did you have any other chocolate? Did you have any other chocolate? Yeah. That was mine. Maybe I need to make it. Oh, I didn't realize. Yeah, right. Tis the season.
The two of us are like right now. But the, you know, that top one. Yeah.
This is Varun. Varun calls himself a foodie. जो भी हो viral, Varun करेगा उस पे attack until भटूरे ने किया counter attack. That's when Varun realized foodie बनने से पहले health insurance लेना smart है. Star Health Insurance. Insure now.
10 minutes म्हणजे big basket. 10 minutes म्हणजे big basket.
Well, good morning, everybody. Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah. It's good to see everybody. I want to begin today by addressing this week's tragedy. Because of hate, anti-Semitism, and terrorism, lives were lost in Syria, Australia, and at Brown University. My prayers are with the family of these victims, and I stand with so many who hope the light of Hanukkah drives out the horrific hate that we've seen. Now, turning to the topic this week, which is one of the topics, which is healthcare. Let me begin by being very clear and very honest about the state of healthcare today. The Democrats' healthcare program has failed. And I want to remind everybody, what's the name of the healthcare program? Obamacare. This was a Democrat program. And I'm finally excited to see that the Democrats now have got on board with us that the affordable health care is anything but affordable. So again, Republicans stand united to fix the problem again. But let's not forget where the root of the problem started. Democrats broke it. We will fix it, and happily to do that. Most Americans can't afford Democrats' insurance plan. The plans are riddled with waste, with fraud, with abuse, and if we're being honest, they only work for one group: big insurance companies. Democrats' health care plan doesn't work. It's never worked. So Republicans are pursuing options that do things a little bit differently. First, we're working to fundamentally lower costs through reforms like cost sharing reductions. You'll see a common theme: lowering costs versus subsidies. We want to lower premiums for all Americans. Second, we're proposing options that actually expand access to all Americans. When Democrats passed their disastrous health care law in 2010, they promised that if you like your plan, you can keep it. They promised choice. They promised you low costs. Not a single one of those promises were true. Not one. In fact, healthcare premiums have risen over 60% since the implementation of the Affordable Care Act. And I ask you this: profitability from the insurance companies are 600% greater since Obamacare. Has your income increased 600%? Ask yourself that. I know mine hasn't. Here's the difference. Republicans are fighting for a solution. Democrats actually want this issue. They want healthcare to be an issue. Republicans actually want solutions for Americans to bring down premiums, not subsidies. That's why Democrats are refusing to rally around real reforms. Instead, but this has been true all year. Democrats have pushed political issues while Republicans have actually delivered solutions. No one's talking about the border today, right? Why is that? It's because we fixed it. The border's closed. People are safe, but you don't hear anyone talking about that because Republicans fixed it. Republicans delivered bigger paychecks by eliminating taxes on tips, taxes on overtime, taxes on Social Security. Republicans delivered lower gas prices by cutting regulation and expanding permitting reform. Time and time again, Republicans delivered results for the American people, real results. And we're just getting started. When we return in the new year, we're going to see a continued focus and push for lower costs and bigger paychecks, because that's what the American people need from us. That's what they want from us. Now, with that, I'm going to turn it over to Representative Marionette Miller Meeks, who is a veteran and a doctor who's actually been the leading voice here in the Republican healthcare solution.
मेरी नई सीलिंग अच्छी लगी?
वाह।
तो पारिक को भी बता दे। जिप्रोक सीलिंग है, सेंट गोबिन की।
पड़ोसी जलेंगे तो बता दीजिएगा। ब्यूटीफुल सीलिंग बनवाना है तो जिप्रोक लगाना है।
Marionette?
Well, I thank Chairwoman McClain, but also Speaker Johnson, Leaders Scalise, Whip Emmer. It's an honor to stand with the House Republican leadership to talk about one of the biggest issues facing American families today, and that's the rising cost of health care. As Chairwoman McClain said, I'm an Army veteran. I was both a nurse and a physician, and I'm the only member of Congress to have served as the state director of a public health department. Not only is this issue important to me, I started my journey as a doctor because I was burned at 15 years old. So it was healthcare and the need for healthcare that drove what I do today. And I spent my career treating patients and fixing broken systems, solving problems. And I can tell you, Thanks to the Democrats' failed policy, which they now admit, our healthcare system went from ill to the ICU. For 15 years, the Unaffordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare, has done the opposite of what it promised. President Obama promised to lower premiums by $2,500 and to bend the cost curve down. Has that happened? No, not in the past 15 years, and it won't happen if we just continue to pass subsidies onto profitable health insurance companies. It doesn't even include out-of-pocket cost. It's not sustainable, and it's not working. Republicans want to lower healthcare costs for everyone, not just a select few, and not just to continue to subsidize profitable insurance companies. Our plan, the Lower Healthcare Premiums for All Americans Act, is the Republican solution to this crisis. It doesn't throw more taxpayer dollars at insurance companies. It puts patients and doctors in the driver's seat. Our bill lowers premiums by 11% by funding cost-sharing reductions the right way, not just through COVID-era bailouts that benefited only big insurers. That's up to $1,871 in savings for families each year and over $36 billion in taxpayer savings. We're delivering real PBM reform to stop middlemen from inflating drug prices. Even in my own state, my PBM transparency bill that passed in 2019 when I was a state senator, one of our counties reported that they saved $80,000 last year through the transparency alone. We want to give small businesses the ability and the power to negotiate better deals. That alone will save taxpayers $2 billion, but most importantly, save small businesses. We're expanding association health plans by allowing small businesses and self-employed workers to team up to expand choices, which result in premiums going down by as much as 30%, even those small businesses that are in the exchanges. As we're strengthening choice arrangements so more small businesses can afford to offer coverage and more workers can choose a plan that fits their lives and their budgets. This is a plan for working Americans, not for profitable insurance companies. It's about lowering costs, increasing access, and restoring sanity to our healthcare system. Most importantly, it is a plan that lowers healthcare costs for everyone and puts patients and their doctors in the driver's seat. Thank you, and I look forward to getting this bill across the finish line and to the American people.
Like our conference chair, I want to start by offering my condolences to the families of the victims of several tragic events over the weekend. The shooting at Brown University that took the lives of two promising young students. The vicious ISIS attack on our service members that claimed 3 American lives. And finally, the horrific anti-Semitic terrorist attack in Australia that killed 15 innocent people at a Hanukkah celebration. Our hearts are heavy as we grieve the evil that was put on display this past weekend, and we continue to pray for the full recovery of those injured and for the comfort of the families whose lives are now forever changed. Now, turning our attention to the House Republican agenda. This year, Republicans delivered one of the most consequential pieces of legislation in our lifetime. The Working Families Tax Cut Act, passed by the House Republicans and signed into law by President Trump, achieved historic America First victories, such as no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, tax relief for seniors, an increased child tax credit, and Trump savings accounts for newborn children. 2026 is gearing up to be the year of deeper pocketbooks and lower costs for the American people. Thanks to this landmark legislation, tax refunds could increase by $1,000 per taxpayer next year. That's more money in your pocket for you to invest, save, and grow. Waitresses, law enforcement officers, and parents will have more of their hard-earned dollars to put food on the table and to support their families. Not only did our bill deliver the largest tax cut for middle-class Americans, it also addressed rampant waste, fraud, and abuse in programs like Medicaid and SNAP. As we have all witnessed with the fraud scandals coming out of our state of Minnesota, these programs have long been ripe for fraud. But House Republicans and Donald Trump implemented common sense reforms to strengthen the system to benefit the people who need it the most, not fraudsters who sent millions to terrorists abroad. Which brings me to addressing the failure of my governor, Tim Walz. We anxiously await Tim Walz's response to House Oversight Committee Chairman Jamie Comer regarding what he knew about the $1 billion in fraud. Walz has had 7 years to address and stop the fraud. It wasn't until President Trump made this a national issue that Walz started to pretend that he cares about his constituents' tax dollars supporting a terrorist group in Somalia. Accountability is coming, Governor. Our dishonest, failed governor must and will answer for his complete incompetence. With that,
When flight prices dropped, Vikram could finally start ticking off his bucket list. Expedia, made to travel.
Furniture that grows with you.
I'll turn it over to our leader, Steve Scalise.
Thank you, Webb. My prayers go out to all those killed in so many different horrible tragedies. I mean, here in America, Brown University, you look at our two Army soldiers that were killed, the anti-Semitic attacks on the other side of the globe. Just remind you, during this Christmas season, this Hanukkah season, it's a special time. It's a time we celebrate, but it's also a time where evil still lurks here and all around the globe. And we just pray for those who have been murdered, harmed, injured. We pray for those who have evil in their hearts, that God can touch them and hopefully remove that evil so that they don't go harm innocent people. This week here in the House, as we finish our work for the year, we're taking up some very important bills, and start with the SPEED Act. We've heard complaints from members all across the country that know that just trying to build things in America, road projects, bridges, pipelines to move energy, anything you're trying to do, more and more laws are getting in the way. NEPA is a heavily abused law that delays a lot of the projects that ought to be built. Bruce Westerman and his committee have done incredible work to bring a bipartisan bill that starts to address the abuses here in NEPA so that we can actually build things in America again. You think about the cost savings that would come if it only takes 2 years instead of 10 years to build a major project. And we all know what's happening all across America, why so many projects are shelved in many cases or take so long to be built because of the abuses of some of these laws like NEPA, Endangered Species Act, the Clean Water Act, Clean Air Act. All of these laws are being heavily abused. So this is a really important first step, getting the SPEED Act passed to get real meaningful permitting reform. And then, of course, Dr. Miller Meeks talked about her bill, which is such an important step to lower costs in healthcare for all Americans, 100% of Americans. While Democrats only care about bailing out insurance companies and focusing on less than 10% of Americans that are in the Unaffordable Care Act, we're focused on lowering premiums for all Americans. And that's what you're going to see on the floor this week. You think about association health plans, which have been proven to give people more options to lower costs. The Choice Act, which, while everybody complains, they say, why when I watch TV commercials, I see this gecko lizard and I see the emu and I see all these other animals out there selling health, they're selling car insurance, they're selling homeowners insurance. Why aren't they selling health insurance? Well, that's because the laws at the federal level prohibit the ability for people to have choices to get people trying to offer them lower cost products for health insurance. Imagine if, for example, with Choice Act, where you can run through a health savings account, the ability where if you get your health insurance through your employer, if you're able to go find a better plan if somebody could compete for your business and offer you a lower deductible plan with lower co-payments for your families, right now you can't go buy that product. We create those options with the bill that we're bringing to the floor tomorrow, the PBM reform that Dr. Miller Meeks talked about, where you can actually have lower prescription drug costs, again, for 100% of Americans. This is something that our 3 committees of jurisdiction have been working on for a long time. And yet, while Democrats only want to bail out insurance companies while premiums go up, we're focused on having lower premium options, lower cost options for 100% of Americans. So another busy week where we're going to be focusing on helping families that are struggling under the weight of all the damage that President Biden did. President Trump is working to lower costs. President Trump wants to see these bills on his desk, and we're going to work to deliver here in the House. And if I don't see you between now and then, I wish you all a Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, and Happy Holidays. Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson.
I rarely get to raise the podium, but I'm going to take the opportunity this morning. Thank you, ladies. Good morning, everybody. Thank you to Dr. Miller Meeks for joining us on what is our last leadership press conference of the year. And I just want to say to all of you, press corps, thanks for being here each week and covering all of this. It's been a hugely historic week and year in so many ways, and a hugely consequential Congress, and you've had a lot to cover. So we do, as everybody has said, wish you Merry Christmas and Happy Hanukkah, and hope you get some well-deserved rest over the short holiday. Since Congress reopened following the end of the Democrat shutdown, the longest in American history, Republicans have passed, since we came back, 41 pieces of legislation. And of course, as you've heard this morning, we're set to pass even more. Chief among them is the Lower Healthcare Premiums for All Americans Act. It is aptly and appropriately named because that's exactly what it's going to do, as everybody has explained this morning. If you recall, Democrats shut the government down and kept it closed for 43 days so that Chuck Schumer could get political cover from the grassroots of his party. Remember that he had voted for the same CR just several months earlier in March. When the same vehicle came forward, he suddenly changed his tune, and that is because he caught a lot of political backlash for it. So he decided instead to shut the government down and fight. Well, everybody saw how obvious and how dangerous that gambit was. And so the Democrats tried to spin their selfish political decision to claim the whole thing was always about, quote, fighting for healthcare affordability. But that claim never made any sense because it ignores the very simple facts of the situation. It is the Democrats' Unaffordable Care Act that broke America's healthcare system, as has been recounted this morning. And it's the Democrats who've refused every good faith Republican effort to fix it along the way. Now, this is 15 years into this saga that the American people have been drugged through because the Democrats decided 15 years ago to break the system. They insisted when they passed the Unaffordable Care Act that it would reduce premiums, it would provide more choice and higher quality and all of that. And none of that ever happened. In fact, quite the opposite effect is what we have seen. All this was foreseeable, and that's why Republicans didn't support it. Premiums have skyrocketed. The quality of care has plummeted in so many places and in so many cases around the country, and fraud is absolutely rampant in the system, and it is costing everyone dearly. Yes, there is a healthcare affordability problem in America. It's a very serious problem for almost every family. But it is an indisputable fact that the Democrats caused that problem, and Republicans are the ones having to clean it up. For 15 long years, Americans have now faced skyrocketing premiums, fewer quality choices, inefficient care, and widespread fraud, waste, and abuse. Benchmark premiums on the Obamacare marketplace for every plan, listen to this, have increased 80% overall since 2014, and they're continuing to rise. The Unaffordable Care Act marketplace has resulted in lower quality plan offerings and less consumer choices to date. Fraud is absolutely rampant. Paragon Health is one of the analyst groups, and they estimate there's over 6.4 million people who are improperly enrolled in the Obamacare exchanges. And a recent GAO study, the Government Accountability Office, found some staggering facts. It proved what we all know intuitively about the fraud that's involved in this program. They found that Obamacare's subsidy system lacks even the most basic guardrails to prevent fraud, waste, and abuse. And I think that study is something that you should all dig into. It should be on the front page of every newspaper because it is shocking and alarming. Over the last 2 years, for example, the investigators at the GAO, Government Accountability Office, they did a little experiment. They Obamacare subsidies. They did it fraudulently by intent. So 24 applications with no Social Security data attached, none of the information that's necessary to actually apply, no citizenship proof attached, and none of the income documents and all the things that are supposed to be applied and included in an application. Now, guess what? Out of the 24, 23 of them were approved. And they've been paid tens of thousands of dollars, some of them as recently as September of this year, the GAO tracking all of this fraud, wondering, hoping if anybody will ever pay any attention to it and stop it. That's not the only thing they found. The report also found that in 2023, 29,000 Social Security numbers were used by multiple persons. In 2024, 68,000 Social Security numbers used by multiple people to bilk the system, to defraud the system, and to take dollars to themselves. You had, in one case, there was over 120 individuals using the same Social Security number to get these benefits, and it was never stopped. The GAO also found that more than 94 million last year alone was sent to insurers on behalf of people who were already deceased. It's a serious, serious problem in the system. It's why the costs are so high. And this is the system that Democrats in Congress want to extend without any reform. We just can't have that. The Washington Post summarized all this best in one simple sentence. They said, quote, "The real problem is that the Affordable Care Act was never actually affordable." That's the problem. America's healthcare system should be the envy of the world. Instead, it's the most expensive in the world, and the American people are not getting any healthier because of all this madness. A new Gallup poll released yesterday found that 70% of Americans have a negative outlook on our healthcare system for all the obvious reasons. All Americans deserve a healthcare system that puts patients first, one that meets their needs with more access, more choice, and more affordable quality care. And House Republicans have offered legislation to begin fixing what is broken and to restore integrity to our nation's healthcare system. And it's so long overdue. The Lower Healthcare Premiums for All Americans Act, which will be on the floor tomorrow, is the first big step in that regard. As has been noted about Dr. Miller Meeks and the other leaders here, it offers common sense solutions to lower premium costs for everybody, all Americans. It expands access to quality care, provides every American with more options and flexibility to choose coverage that works for them, and it brings greater transparency to America's healthcare system. And here's how. The bill has 5 key reforms. I'll just reiterate some of this real quickly. It reduces premium costs through cost-sharing reduction payments. It brings pharmacy benefit manager transparency and removes the hidden costs of prescription drugs. It allows small business owners and independent workers to form association health plans. It provides more choice for employees to customize their healthcare plans, and it protects small businesses from costly regulatory overreach. According to the latest CBO projection, Republicans' cost-sharing reduction payments, just that provision alone, would reduce premiums by at least 11% and will save taxpayers tens of billions of dollars, about $30 billion. Contrast this with the Democrats' proposal. Now, what is their proposal? The Democrats' subsidy proposal would only lower premiums for a small subset of people. Now, think of this. Just 7% of Americans would benefit. When they passed the COVID era enhanced subsidy, enhanced premium tax credit, okay, it would only affect, and only did affect, 7% of the American people. If it was extended today, if their gambit was done and without any reforms, and they expanded it for 3 years, which is what they tried to do in the Senate, and they failed last week, and what they would try to do in the House, if allowed, that would only reduce, for the 7% of Americans, it would only reduce their costs by 5.7%. Okay, this is not some solution to the problem. It's just adding more money, it's further subsidizing a broken system, and the subsidies go to insurance companies. They're not trying to solve the cost problem. They're trying to hide that, and it's not the way to fix it. It would also, by the way, cost taxpayers, if the subsidy was extended, would cost American taxpayers $350 billion over the next 10 years. Again, the proposal doesn't lower healthcare costs in any way. It only hides the true cost of the failed law. And I'll remind you, CSR payments are not a new idea. In fact, in 2017, the thing that we're going to put on the floor tomorrow, a big part of that, 196 House Democrats, many of them still in Congress, wrote a letter in support of that very idea. Exactly what the Republican bill this week will accomplish. Now, they won't tell you that this week. I'm certain they're all going to vote against it. Why? As was said here many times this morning, they do not want a solution. Democrats do not want a solution. They want an issue in the upcoming election. And they think that the media will go along with this and that people will buy it. That, oh, their heroic effort to extend this COVID era subsidy that they themselves created and that they themselves put the expiration date on at the end of this year, that they're going to try to convince you that that's all healthcare wrapped into that. Remember, it only affects 7% of Americans and it would only reduce their cost by less than 6%. Democrats also had a chance to support our provision in the working families tax cut in the big, beautiful bill. But House Democrats voted against it and the Senate Democrats stripped it out. That cost sharing reduction reduced everybody's premiums by almost 12%. And the Democrats fought to take it out. This is something that we're going to do this week. The Lower Healthcare Premiums for All Americans Act is going to accomplish exactly what the title says. If it becomes law, premiums will decrease, access will increase, and every American will have more options and flexibility to choose the coverage that works best for them. It's called the free market, and we're the ones that advance those ideas. More options and lower costs. That's what the American people demand and deserve, and it is only the Republican Party that is presenting any ideas to do that. The Democrats want to keep subsidizing a broken system. We're fighting for that, and we will. I'll just close with this. In 2025, as I said, was a marquee year, a landmark year. I want to remind you all there's something noticeably absent from our end-of-year duties here. Normally, or at least in the past before I became speaker, we would all be here with so much angst and drama and everything about the dreaded end-of-year Christmas omnibus spending package. You have not been able to write about that for now the third year because we broke the fever. We both broke the Christmas omnibus fever, and we're getting back to stewardship and regular order, and we're very proud of that. The third consecutive year, we've avoided that terrible congressional Christmas tradition, and we're getting everything working here again. Fixing the appropriations process has been a goal for me and this leadership team. It's been a goal for Chairman Cole at Appropriations and his leadership team, and we're well on the way to rebuilding that muscle memory. House Republicans have shown up every day and delivered real results for the American people, and we're going to continue to do so. We are excited about the years ahead. We look back now on what we've done all this year. We obviously passed the Working Families Tax Cut, the big, beautiful bill, the most significant piece of legislation that Congress has considered in my lifetime. Stephen Miller's had a quote that summarized it pretty well. He said, quote, "Each and every one of the individual titles in that bill will be considered one of the greatest achievements in the history of the conservative movement." They are conservative policies, but they benefit every American, and everyone will be seeing and feeling the effects of that in the first and second quarter of next year when all that becomes implemented. Here's, by way of reminder, real quick, legislation included the largest tax cut in American history, permanent extension of the reduced estate tax, Medicaid program reforms, expansion of SNAP work requirements, increased border enforcement and funding, no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, increased standard deduction for seniors, tax-free savings accounts for every child born in America, business tax provisions to incentivize investment and innovation and broaden the pathway out of poverty for more people. Wages will be increasing and costs will be going down. Many of these landmark provisions are set for implementation in the first, second quarter, as I said, and all boats will begin to rise. Just last week, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent predicted 100 to 150 billion in new tax refunds, between 1,000 and 2,000 per household. And most of the estimates say that the average American household will have their take-home pay increase by at least $10,000. These are real, tangible benefits that this bill is going to offer to tens of millions of American families, and we're excited about what's ahead. It's just one more example of the many positive and transformational outcomes that we're going to see going into the next year. So far, House Republicans have passed 413 bills this year. We've codified 68 of President Trump's America First executive orders. We've repealed 23 Biden-era maddening regulations under the Congressional Review Act resolutions. We clawed back billions in wasteful spending through rescissions and opened numerous investigations into President Biden's failed administration. And we look forward to continuing all that work when we return in 2026 and we go into an epic midterm election cycle. With that, I'll take a few questions. I'm gonna go to Bill Maloogian. What you doing on the front row, man? Glad to see you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ahead of Jack Smith's deposition tomorrow, there's a new report out this morning that DOJ is getting ready to hand over Congress a batch of emails, specifically to the House Judiciary Committee. And in those emails, they allege it says that the FBI warned the Biden DOJ that there wasn't probable cause to raid Mar-a-Lago. Are you aware of this? Are you expecting to get these emails later today? What's your response?
I've heard as much as you just reported there, and I have not had an opportunity to review any of that yet. But it would verify, and I think affirm much of what we understood from the very beginning. As y'all know, I used to serve on the House Judiciary Committee before I was made Speaker in October of 23. And we spent a lot of time uncovering just the complete and total weaponization of the Department of Justice under the Biden administration. They used it to go after political enemies, and chief among them was, of course, Donald J. Trump. And they abused the system. And to me, the great harm of it all was that they really eroded the people's faith in our system of justice itself. I mean, that's the most dangerous thing. If people don't believe that our justice system is actually equal justice under the law, that Lady Justice is actually still wearing the blindfold, that everybody gets the same treatment under the law, it's a really serious challenge for a constitutional republic. And so this is some shocking revelations to a lot of people. It's not to us. We understood that this was happening the whole time. The evidence, I think, and I expect will verify all of that. And there's going to have to be appropriate accountability. I mean, accountability is key here. It's important. Because if you're going to restore the people's faith in the justice system, you have to show them that there are serious consequences for people like Jack Smith, who abuses that system. We have to ensure it doesn't happen again. And we'll see how all that unfolds, but it's going to be a very, very interesting, important development. Yes, ma'am. Second row. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Leader. This morning, Congressman Mike Lawler said that it was political malpractice to not allow a vote on the ACA subsidy extension this week. What's your reaction to that? And will Republicans suffer any political blowback for not allowing something like that to come to the floor with moderates?
Well, Mike Lawler is a very dear friend and a close colleague of mine. And ironically, weekend before last, I was in New York in his district on Long Island, and we were campaigning together, ensuring that he gets reelected. Mike Lawler fights hard for New York, as every Republican in this conference does for their districts. The districts are different. They have different priorities and ideas, but we do have, there's about a dozen members in the conference that are in these swing districts who are fighting hard to make sure that they reduce costs for all of their constituents. And many of them did want to vote on this Obamacare, COVID era subsidy the Democrats created. We looked for a way to try to allow for that pressure release valve, and it just was not to be. We worked on it all the way through the weekend, in fact. And in the end, there was not an agreement, wasn't made. Now, everybody was at the table in good faith. And I certainly appreciate the views and the opinions of every member of this conference. But I will tell you one thing they will all join in unity on is voting for this bill that we've been discussing this morning. Because again, instead of just trying to assist 7% of Americans, this is for 100% of Americans. And we can handle that and do that together. I hope that Democrats will come along with us. If they're serious about solving the problem and bringing down cost of healthcare, they'll all fully support it as well. But I think you're going to see they're playing politics with this. Back row, yes, ma'am.
This is Varun. Varun calls himself a foodie. Whatever's trending, Varun just attacks. Until the Bhature decided to counterattack. That's when Varun realized, before becoming a foodie, getting health insurance is the smart move. Star Health Insurance. Insure now.
स्वाद सुगंध का राजा बादशाह बनाए बढ़िया खाना बादशाह मसाला.
Last week, President Trump said that his legislative agenda is essentially done. So why should voters vote for Republicans in the midterms if there's nothing left to do legislatively?
Well, I don't know which comment you're referring to and in what context, but I'll tell you, I talked to the president sometimes multiple times each day. He and I and his team and our teams work around the clock. Literally, the president and I will talk sometimes at midnight and then again at 6 a.m. I mean, this president doesn't sleep. He's working all the time. The agenda is aggressive. There is much more to do. I think what he's sometimes when I think he's taken out of context on comments like that, he's referring to what we accomplished with the Working Families Tax Cut, the big beautiful bill, because there's so much in that a lot of people said, wow, you guys checked all the boxes. Well, we did to a certain extent, but there is so much more to do. And we're going to have a very aggressive legislative agenda coming right out of the gates in January. We're going to continue to work, for example, on healthcare to continue to bring costs down for the American people, to bring down the cost of living overall. You're going to see an aggressive affordability agenda, and we're going to see continued codification of the president's executive orders. He's up to about 200 of those. Probably about 150 of them are codifiable by Congress, and we're working steadily through that list. You're going to see us delivering for the American people while the effects of that giant piece of legislation that we did on July 4th, got signed on July 4th, comes into implementation. So much more yet to do. And the president and I talk about that almost every day, and he's excited about it, and I am. Yes, sir. Front row.
So there's a lot of Republicans who would still like to see health savings accounts set up as an alternative to the premium tax credit. I'm curious, why is that not in this bill? Is that something that's still on the table?
Very much on the table. The president likes the policy as well. I see my doctor colleagues here. Dr. Miller Meeks is nodding in agreement. The Docs Caucus is the Chief Doctors Caucus in the Republican Conference works on these things, and I think we could get broad consensus on that. What we anticipate going into the first quarter of next year is possibly in a reconciliation package or in regular order as standalone ideas just like this. We have a long list of things that we know will reduce premiums, increase access and quality of care. And again, we're the only party that's going to be bringing that forward. The Democrats have zero ideas, zero concepts, and zero legislative plans on anything they'll propose other than just subsidizing the broken system. So there's going to be a stark contrast between the two parties. That'll be a big part of it. And I think you'll see a lot of that discussion going forward. Yes, ma'am. Last one.
Follow up on that. We're at the end of the year here. People have already enrolled in their healthcare plans. You guys were out for 2 months during the shutdown. Why has it taken until the end of the year to start putting to the floor these healthcare bills? And what is your message to those who are going to see their premiums rise next year anyway, because it seems unlikely that Congress is not going to be able to get something together by then?
The healthcare bill on the floor tomorrow is right on time. There's always a good time to reduce premiums for healthcare. And remember, the Republican Party, since the Unaffordable Care Act became law 15 years ago, we have been working steadily, producing ideas, trying to address this. We tried to repeal and replace it, as you all know, in our ultimately failed attempt back in the first Trump administration at the end of 2017. The famous John McCain comes down, tanked the effort. And since then, the roots of Obamacare, the Unaffordable Care Act, have gotten so deep in the system that it's no longer possible to just pull it out at the root and chop it off and start over. It's too deeply ingrained. And so now we have to take it step by step to reduce cost and repair the system. And that's the ideas that we have. You're talking about the longest shutdown in U.S. history. The Democrats did that, and that's how it'd come out. And they did it for political purposes. When they took us off the field effectively for 43 days, as soon as we got back, let's remember, because history is being revised here every day, we got right back to the appropriations process, remember, which was so critically important, and all the other measures that we were pushing through. We got done on that steadily through the year, and then we turned the attention to healthcare, knowing it was coming at the end of the year on the subsidy and that the new ideas would be presented. We didn't start this in October, November, or December. This is something the Republican Party has been working on for years. I've mentioned in here before, when I was chair of the Republican Study Committee, the largest caucus of Republicans in Congress, we had 158 members back in 2019, and we produced a 2-volume set on conservative common sense solutions to fix healthcare. We've never been able to get the votes to fix it because the Democrats have been unwilling to go along. And you can go back and look at the record and show over and over, all they want to do is continue to throw taxpayer dollars and subsidize the broken system. The reason the premiums were up 80% since the bill was passed by the Democrats in 15 years ago is because they're further ingraining a broken system. So it's up to us to fix it. This is one piece, one part of that. And in the first quarter, January, February next year, you're going to see much more activity of this. The American people's attention is on healthcare for the obvious reason. It is a very serious problem. But remember this, the Democrats broke it. Republicans are going to fix it. I wish you all a blessed holiday. Thanks so much.
Oh, yeah, first and second.
You know family, I cannot. Oh, not even. Oh my God.
Okay. What if you find me in the house It's
Okay, yes. Yeah, I imagine exactly.
Nitori opens its first store in India, our city mall, Mumbai. Enhance your living with affordable prices. Furniture and interior goods that make your home enjoyable. Visit now.
You know when the sweep is for the thing in oh, make sure you found a seat. Hey, that's not bad. I got readers in that class. Because I'm already. This could be. Sweet time for sure. Yeah.
Hi. Hi. Okay.
Very good, thank you. Oh, really? I think Mariana has to do some.
It came up. Yeah. It's the morning where you need a Vanity Fair subscription, sort of like the Ryan.
I already have one. I'm
Oh.
a Vanity
Oh, I'm
Fair
done with
subscriber.
them. I broke up with them by the end of like part 3.
I was gonna say, after part 2, I was like, I think I've seen enough.
I'm wondering if this error and that error are related. My other devices are running just as fine.
There's a 2 to 5 gig channel, so.
For a payment provider, you need unlimited.
That was great.
You good? Great job. With over 1,000 payment methods, multi-currency business accounts, and payment cards for your customers, Unlimited's got you covered. Unlimited. Borderless payments for borderless opportunities.
This would not be a good.
No, you should start that.
Heads up. Yeah.
Heads up. Heads up.
Hello, hello. Hello, everyone. I'm honored to be here with Vice Chair Ted Lieu and the DCCC Chair Susan Delbene after our meeting across the street this morning with our colleagues. As many of you know, for months, Democrats have been sounding the alarm on the affordability crisis and the expiration of the affordable tax credits that will expire at the end of the year at the hands of Republican leadership. We've reached out our proposed plans, anything we can do to get our colleagues in a position to work with us. We will meet with them anywhere, anytime, any place, if they come in good faith to work to extend these tax credits. But rather than accept the olive branch, Republicans have turned their backs on Congress and the American people across this country. Instead of doing what they know is right by their constituents and oftentimes what their own members are telling them, they are going to choose to kowtow to Donald Trump and the most extreme members of their own party. Remember, Donald Trump promised to lower costs on day one. Hardworking families have been pleading for Republicans to do just that and to keep his promise. But instead of offering real solutions and working with us to achieve lower costs, congressional Republicans are putting on a show this week. Their bill, which may not even have the support of their entire conference, will not extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits and will not lower costs that families face. Even if it were to pass, it won't become law.
This isn't a serious effort to address rising costs of healthcare that millions of Americans will face. Now, $1,000 more in new costs thanks to Republicans. Meanwhile, Democrats on both sides of the Capitol have a solution we are on board with to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits and ensure that Americans' premiums don't double or triple or even quadruple. We only need 4 Republicans to join us. Time is still marching on while Republicans sit on their hands. The American people will pay the price for the inaction, and Republicans will no doubt pay a price at the ballot box next year. Next, I'll yield to Vice Chair Ted Lieu.
Thank you, Chairman Aguilar. My heart goes out to the victims and the families and all those affected at the mass shooting at Brown University. I hope law enforcement catches the murderer soon and that that person is prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. I also request the FBI director to stop putting out false information. It's not the first time he's done it. He wrongly identified a potential suspect in this case. There's literally no reason for the FBI director to have to be the first one to tweet something, to put out these things before verifying the facts. And when he does that, it ends up potentially ruining lives, putting the public at risk. And it's not something that FBI director needs to do. I ask him to just stop doing that. I also want to say that my prayers are with the Jewish community, both in the United States and across the world. The heinous attack in Australia was completely devastating. No one should ever be targeted because of their religious beliefs, especially when they're practicing those religious beliefs. And anti-Semitism, both in the US and around the world, has continued to grow. And we need to do more to stamp this form of discrimination out, one of the oldest in humankind. And it is a scourge upon humanity, and we need to all work together to eradicate it. Now I'd like to talk about jobs, which we've now reached the highest unemployment in since 2021, 4.6%. The American people know that the policies of Trump and Republicans are crushing people economically. We know costs also continue to rise, grocery costs, electricity costs, as well as healthcare costs. And Republicans have had an entire year to fix the healthcare system. They knew that the ACA subsidies were expiring and they've done nothing about it. And this week, they still don't have a plan to restore the subsidies for the ACA. Democrats have a discharge petition, 200 members have signed it. We just need 4 Republicans to sign this discharge petition, and we can stop these premium rates from increasing for people on the ACA. And I have a great honor now to introduce our tremendous field general and head of the DCCC, Susan Del Bene from the great state of Washington.
Thanks, Ted. Sure. Good morning, everyone. Thanks to Chairman Aguilar and our Vice Chair, Ted Lieu, for inviting me today. Today, we had caucus down the street, and we gave an update on our efforts to retake the majority and hold Republicans accountable for their disastrous agenda. Americans across the country are rejecting Republicans in election after election this year. They have made clear that they are souring on House Republicans' broken promises, and it's just been a series of broken promises. The American people want leaders who are going to stand up for them, address the issues that are making their lives more unaffordable, not just policies that are supporting the wealthiest few. And despite what their constituents are telling them about how they are struggling, Republicans don't seem to care.
Primaries and having a competition. So we're excited about the year ahead. We're thankful for all of you and the work that you do each and every day in representing and in communicating to our communities and across this country. We wish you all the best this holiday season and look forward to seeing you next year in the election year. Thank you so much.
Very good.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, everybody, and I'm proud to be joined by my colleagues here. We have had a task force focusing on this issue, and these members and some others are active and proud members of our task force. So look, 27 days ago, every single senator sent Donald Trump a clear and simple message: release the Epstein files. Congress passed a law, not a suggestion, not a request. The law requires DOJ to release the files by Friday, December 19th. In 3 days, President Trump has a choice: follow the law and release the files, or break the law and continue to hide the truth from the American people. Let me be blunt. We fully expect Trump, Bondi, and their minions to dodge, delay, or partially release these files. If they release some documents and hide others, the American people will see right through it, and they'll ask the obvious question. We are all asking the obvious question that looms. President Trump, what are you trying to hide? President Trump, what are you trying to hide? That's the question the American people are asking. Now, over the past few weeks, Senate Democrats, including my colleagues here with me, have been preparing for every scenario. We're working with the victims' attorneys. We're working with legal experts. We're working with people very familiar with this case to ensure full compliance of the law. If the administration withholds some documents unlawfully, we will know. If they abuse narrow exemptions to hide the truth, we will know. And there will be serious legal and political consequences. This law passed with near unanimous support. The survivors deserve the truth, and the American people are demanding it. This isn't political. Democrats and Republicans agree. The American people deserve the truth. So, Donald Trump, release the Epstein files. Stop hiding. Stop delaying. Come clean with the American people. And if you don't, the question will only get louder and louder and louder. Trump, what the hell are you trying to hide? Senator Wyden's done great work on the financial end of this and has been a great member of our team. Ron.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Yeah.
No, go ahead.
No, Amy, you go first.
Now, please.
I
Go ahead.
understand.
Amy goes
Go,
next.
Go. You're closer to the microphone.
Thank my colleagues, and there are two cover-ups that need to be discussed this morning. The first involves the Department of Justice, and that is urgent business that we're focused on this week. The second cover-up is being conducted by the Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, and it deals with the financial aspects of how the sex trafficking came to be. So let's talk about them one at a time. First, as Senator Schumer said, there's good reason to be skeptical of whatever spin the Trump administration puts out on Friday. Here's why. This wouldn't be the first time Bondi tried to trick the public with a binder full of chicken feed. That's what she did back in the spring, which infuriated MAGA voters who took Trump and his cronies at their word that they'd release the files. Second, the cushy treatment by the Trump administration of Ms. Maxwell is totally unacceptable. She was right at the heart of the most notorious sex trafficking ring in modern American history. Despite that, Donald Trump himself said a pardon for Maxwell is on the table. Third, the Trump administration did assign hundreds of FBI agents to look at the Epstein file, but it wasn't to hunt down any more pedophiles. It was really to comb through the files for Donald Trump's name. Why? To protect him from public scrutiny. From the beginning, that's what they focused on with respect to Epstein. So Trump and Bondi do not deserve the benefit of the doubt. Second, we need to look at what Scott Bessent and the Treasury Department is up to here. They've got another massive set of Epstein files. It is a critical fight for transparency and to find out how this horrendous sex trafficking operation was funded. For nearly 4 years, Finance Committee investigators have been on this, and we have been following the money. And to do that, you've got to get access at the Treasury Department to the records that we have seen. The staff of major Republicans have seen them, and then the file is made up of thousands and thousands of bank documents. And my investigators say that it is a financial roadmap into how Epstein hurt so many families. It shows who was paying Epstein and where his money was going. It shows what banks enabled his trafficking despite evidence of money laundering and despite the knowledge that he was a sex offender. It shows payments that look like the result of blackmail. It shows big outflows of money to Eastern Europe, Turkey, and Russia, and it includes the names of women and girls. My investigators saw a large portion of these records in 2024 under the Biden administration, but the Trump administration is denying us the file today. It's important for the American people to find out how all of this was financed, and that means getting our hands on the file to investigate further. The Secretary of Treasury, Mr. Bessent, has refused now multiple times to hand it over to our investigators. Ridiculous excuses, again and again. So we have introduced legislation to compel him to turn this over to Senate investigators. And I will tell you that Epstein survivors are already filing suit against banks because they think that this information is so critical to finding out how they were exploited. So it is time for the stonewalling to end. That's why I so appreciate what my colleagues have done to get this information out on Friday. And the administration is required by law to release the Epstein files at DOJ. I'm here to say it's got to be done at the Treasury Department as well, because we find in America, you capture corruption by following the money. And that's what was so critical at this point to the second investigation. Thank you, Leader Schumer, and I thank my colleague, Senator Klobuchar. He's been working very well on this, and we appreciate it.
Thank you very
Senator
much.
Klobuchar.
Thank you, Senator Wyden. Thanks for following the money, something that's our creed as my former job as prosecutors. Whenever you're solving a case from the smallest theft to big rings, and I appreciate that. So let's remember what this is all about. This is about exploitation and abuse. These victims deserve justice, they deserve transparency, and they deserve accountability. Example, Danielle Bensky, 17, recruited into Epstein's circle. Her mom had a brain tumor, and Epstein told her he could help her mom, but only if she abided by his demands, including recruiting other girls. He told her, I can use it to help you, or I can make it very difficult for your mother. That horrific crime, one of many, is why the House voted 427-1 to release the files and why the Senate unanimously passed the bill on Senator Schumer's motion. That bill set a specific deadline, December 19th, and it is a must. It's not a may, it's a must. And it says that no record shall be withheld, delayed, or redacted on the basis of embarrassment, reputational harm, or political sensitivity. With this deadline, they will show whether they are really going to stop covering up or they're going to protect these powerful abusers. If they redact these files heavily, it will be clear they're hiding something, because maybe it's because Donald Trump is mentioned 1,500 times. Maybe it's because they want to shield wealthy donors who are implicated in these files. Regardless of the reason, if these files are heavily redacted without justification, Americans will know that they are once again, this administration, siding with the rich and the powerful. Remember, if the president was actually serious about truth and transparency, his administration would have released these files months ago. All the way back in March, the Attorney General said everything is going to come out to the public. The public has a right to know. It's been 9 months. 9 months. And if the administration withholds or heavily redacts these records, it will be clear whose side they are on. We know the money, follow the money. They haven't released those yet. And then when it comes to this, they literally have the power of the entire Congress telling them, get them out there now. That's what these next few days will tell us. And with that, I turn it over to my colleague who's been working on this for months and been right out front on it, Senator Merkley.
We smell a rat. Why? The president campaigned on releasing the files. Pam Bondi assured everyone the files would be released. Kash Patel said the files will be given to the public. And yet here we are. Not a single bit of these files has been released. And then what happened? Well, we had over in the House bipartisan leadership with Ro Khanna and Thomas Massey and a discharge petition. And as the discharge petition started to reach the critical number required, the House went on 8 weeks of vacation in order to avoid releasing these files. That's never happened in American history. And then we find, as they were coming back, what happened? An announcement that some new investigations were being launched. That was on November 14th. And on the evening of the 18th, Senator Schumer went to the floor, asked for unanimous consent that the bill from the House be deemed passed when it arrived in the Senate, and unanimous consent was secured from all to send this message. And what happened the next day? Pam Bondi gets up and says, we have this new information to justify new investigations. The timing of that's awfully suspicious. So the leaders in the House and the Senate demanded a meeting. We wrote to Pam Bondi, Ro Khanna, Tom Massey, myself, Ben Ray Lujan, and we were joined, and I welcomed the bipartisanship of Senator Murkowski to say, we want to know what you're up to. Meet with us and explain these new investigations. What is this new evidence? What are you undertaking? And how are you setting forward a plan to make sure all the documents are released on the 30-day notice? We got a response. The response was, we acknowledge receipt of your letter. That's it. So one of the things to watch for is the argument that vast sections had to be redacted in some cases to defend the integrity of some newly invented investigations. One way or another, we anticipate that Trump is going to continue to hide the files that should be released. We must not let it happen. We must not let it happen because we are about accountability for the perpetrators and justice for the victims. And that will not happen unless there is transparency and the documents are released in whole. Thank you.
Senator Blumenthal. Yes, thanks to my colleagues, most especially to Senator Schumer for being so steadfast and unyielding. I think we need to recognize why we are here. We are here because of the survivors. Because of the survivors pursuing relentlessly the hideous cause of their victimization, Epstein, but also the rich and powerful people who were Epstein's benefactors and his enablers. The survivors created that public pressure that led to the law forcing release of these documents. Donald Trump must listen to the survivors, and we will know what they are concealing because of the survivors. Your question may be, how do you know that they're hiding stuff? The survivors will give us the knowledge we need to pursue the truth. They have been about the truth from the very start, and their truth has to prevail.
Thank you. And so, as I mentioned, we've had a task force of 13 members. We've divided up in different groups because we know, we believe that they will not give full, open disclosure where there's great accessibility. What is Trump hiding? We're going to find out everything that he hides, that he has hidden. Not just not releasing the report, but once he releases the report, what else he is hiding. And that's why we assembled this task force. And we've had great success, great help from the survivors and their lawyers, from others who have prosecuted. Ron's done a great job on the financial end of it. We're going to find everything out. He can run, he can't hide. Questions on this subject? Yes.
What is your sense in terms of the time frame? Is it end of day on Friday, or is it when do you need to have these documents? And if you don't, is there a legal recourse that you are already planning?
Okay. First question. We don't know when exactly they'll release it. They may try to do it at 11:59 p.m. They have to do it by the 19th. That's the law. If they don't release the documents, there's going to be such an outcry from one end of America to the other that I think they'll be forced to do it. Just as they've resisted all along, but we're at this point. The public pressure, as Abe Lincoln said, public sentiment is everything. You've rarely seen so many different political wings of each party come together and say, we need this. So we believe they'll be required to do it. Obviously, we would pursue every legal, legislative, and administrative way to get this done as well. But public pressure will be everything. Yes.
How are you planning on addressing this if they do release it and it's so heavily redacted that there's nothing of substance in it?
Well, the people who wrote the legislation drafted it very carefully. We've been consulting our lawyers on just that issue, and we will be able to first make the point that some of the redacted stuff much of the redacted stuff doesn't have to be redacted, and we'll have chapter and verse on that. And second, we will be prepared to argue that in court. But again, our number one ally in this is the American people, and they are going to demand that it be released. And when we say this and this and this shouldn't have been redacted, what are they hiding there? It's going to increase a lot of heat on them.
And clearly, as Senator Schumer knows, having met with them, the victims are not also going to allow this to happen.
Right.
They're going to be leading the way. They want to know what's in these documents.
Yep.
The victims are already filing lawsuits using the information we've gotten. They are not going to let this just go by the board.
Yes.
What is your plan for making progress on Senator Wyden's bill with regard to the Treasury?
Oh, why don't I call on Senator Wyden?
We're going to keep pushing to find out what is behind Scott Bessent's stonewalling. The fact of the matter is, on Valentine's Day, before the Biden administration left, we went to look at the SARS, these suspicious activity reports, and we had the staff of senior Republicans. And we're going to keep pushing on a bipartisan basis to A, get all the facts out, because as Senator Schumer has said, this is not a blue and red fight. And B, to make the reforms that are necessary so this never happens again. Too many banks looked the other way. Too many auditors decided this wasn't important. This was again and again a textbook case of disinterest in suffering and families and young girls, and we're not going to let it happen again.
We're also not going to bifurcate this. It's part of one large investigation, one large disclosure. And just as we will do everything we can to alert the public what has happened on the non-financial parts of the documents, with all the horrible things that they did to these women, we're going to continue to keep pressure on the financial parts too. Yes.
So let's say these files do get released. Is it just going to be a public release, and you all are just going to let the American people go through them and come to their own conclusions? Or will Senate Democrats, will there be a coordinated campaign? Will there be anything that we can expect next year when you?
Well, the first step is to get them all released. That will be our first job. And then once we have the releases, obviously, it's going to be clear as could be to the American people what has gone on here. But, Democrats will be actively involved, letting people know how disgraceful this has been.
The American people should see everything we see.
Yeah, they'll see it. Yes.
In terms of the
timing, if you need to go to court after the release because it's, there are too many redactions or just everything's not there, is that something that can happen quickly, days,
We're
weeks?
gonna, we have great lawyers who are ready to go, and we will leave it to them as to the best sense of timing. But certainly, we want to let public pressure build and build and build.
And are you working with the Republicans on the court action? Because the law was bipartisan, would it?
We expect that we will have lots of bipartisan support. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Oh, last one.
What steps are you guys taking when it comes to learning more about why Ghislaine Maxwell's moved? I don't know if you saw, but Susie Wiles, the president's chief of staff,
We
said
saw that.
she had no idea, the president had no idea. I'm curious, I don't know whether those will be in the
She
file.
should not have been moved. And I think when the files are made public, the pressure on to disclose how that happened, why that happened, and to undo it will be very, very real and strong. That is one of the focuses is on what happened and what they've tried and what they have tried to do to cover up everything, including what happened with Ghislaine.
Okay.
Everybody, you should know we expect to have some more information tomorrow on an additional piece of how outrageous the abuses that FD is involved in are. That's tomorrow. All right? Good, or you?
We missed you.
Well, thank you very much. It's a great honor to have the leader of Argentina, a place that I love, I've been to, and one of the most beautiful places in the world, president. And I really want to thank you very much. He's MAGA all the way. It's make Argentina great again. I heard about him when he was campaigning, and even before his campaign. He's a great economist, and he was saying a lot of very correct things, and he was very much in a conservative mode. And I heard all about you as you were running and even before you were running, because as a tremendously talented economist, you were getting a lot of good write-ups, and I appreciated that. But he was make Argentina great again. It worked. I actually sent him some hats for his early part of the campaign, and then he called me. He wanted a lot more, and I said, "When does it stop? When will it stop?" And it stopped with him winning, and he's become very popular. And he's on the verge of a breakthrough, I think. I think he's really on the verge of tremendous economic success. And I know that Scott Bessent is helping. And our great Scott is doing a job, and he feels very strongly about it. And Scott, do you want to say just a couple of words about that, please?
Yes, sir. The president is fighting 100 years of bad economic history and policy, and is
Both presidents.
Both.
We're fighting bad. I thought he was talking about the U.S. president when he said that.
And there's a midterm election coming up. We think he's going to do quite well, and then continue his reform agenda. Mr. President, as you said, President Obama had a big opportunity during his term, which he wasted. Many governments in Latin America went center right, and the U.S. ignored them. We are not going to ignore our allies. It is economic strength. We're using our economic strength to create peace, just as you've done all over the world. And it is much better to form an economic bridge with our allies, people who want to do the right thing, than have to have shoot at narco gunboats. So we think that this is an opportunity for the Argentinian people, and that President Milei is the one to do it. He's got a great cabinet. He's got a great team who we've worked with over the past weeks.
And the election is coming up very soon, and it's a very big election being watched by the world because he's done an incredible job. But with that comes some pain, and they have some pain, and now they're coming out of it. I think the victory is very important. Your poll numbers, I hear, are pretty good, but I think they'll be better after this. And, you know, our approvals are somewhat subject to who wins the election, because if a socialist, or in the case of New York City, a communist wins, you feel a lot differently about making an investment. I think, Scott, you'd feel that if somebody that had no chance, in other words, if somebody wins and has no chance of ever having a great economy because of that philosophy, you would put a halt to what we're doing.
Yes, sir. And we're confident that President Milei is going to do well. We've been criticized by a couple of American Peronists like Senator Warren. And she
That's a
and-
compliment.
Yeah.
She has no idea what she's doing. A nasty, horrible senator. Go ahead. Other than that, I like her very much.
Yeah, and she and her protege in New York, Mandame, who I don't even think he's a Peronist. I think he's more of the communist chauvinismo. So we stand with the president and what he stands for and the hope for the Argentinian people. And President Trump, just like you, he carries the young people. So it's hope for the future. The Argentines have made the decision to shake off 100 years of bad policy. They went from one of the richest countries in the world to a ton of debt. And I think that with the bridge the U.S. is giving them and the strong policies, that Argentina can be great again.
Thank you very much. Please, go ahead, please.
Muchísimas gracias por esta recepción. Me siento muy honrado, muy especialmente en este momento en el que, digamos, gracias al gran liderazgo suyo, presidente Trump, ha logrado la paz en Medio Oriente. No solo este gran logro que ha sido alcanzar la paz en Medio Oriente, sino lograr el retorno de los 20 rehenes vivos. Además, quiero también felicitar por esa labor y por entender, digamos, la amenaza que es el socialismo del siglo XXI en todo el mundo, y en especial en América Latina, la labor de Marco Rubio. Y también quiero agradecer profundamente el enorme trabajo que ha hecho el secretario Bessent, digamos, para ayudar a superar este problema de iliquidez que tenía Argentina como consecuencia, digamos, de los ataques políticos que hemos sufrido por nuestros opositores que no quieren que Argentina vuelva a abrazar las ideas de la libertad y que quieran volver a abrazar ideas perimidas, fracasadas, que en el fondo no son ni más ni menos que caminos que conducen al socialismo. Así es que, en primer lugar, muchas gracias por recibirme, muchas gracias por lo que están haciendo por el mundo libre y muchas gracias al secretario Bessent por la enorme tarea que ha llevado a cabo y que, digamos, nos permite tener una ruta para poder transitar tranquilos y hacer lo que los argentinos de bien necesitan, y que creo que va a ser un buen caso para mostrar al mundo que las ideas de la libertad funcionan y generan prosperidad. Muchísimas gracias.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Do we have a interpreter that wants to, you all either have that? Has everyone understood? Because I think you made a very important, profound statement, actually. But we could have it interpreted if you want. Does anybody want it interpreted? Would you like that? Would you like it? Can the interpreter speak what, do we have somebody set up for that? You want?
It's actually simultaneous, so if the president would like to repeat his statement, we can do it.
No, that's okay. Don't worry about it. We'll leave it that way. So it's an honor to have you here. And I just want to tell you that your career has been an amazing one, and it's going to continue with the election. You're going to win the election. We're going to endorse you. I'm going to endorse you today, fully endorse you. And, you know, people in Argentina like me. A lot of people like me. I'm even surprised myself. But we had a great week. We had a great weekend. We had a great period of time in the Middle East. It was very comprehensive. It went very rapidly, and I think it's going to lead to something that's going to be unrecognizable, certainly for the Middle East. what's taken place in the last few days, people can't believe it. I've never seen anything like it. I've never seen the love and the spirit. And I've done a lot of things. I've done a lot of deals. I've done a lot of political deals where countries come into line or whatever, but I've never seen anything like this, the level of love. And it has to do with the mystique of the Middle East, I think, because if I did other countries, I did 7 other settlements of wars, complete settlements of wars, and it was very well received. But this is something I've never seen anything like it. The media covered it very fairly, and even the fake news, of which we have a lot, they actually covered it fairly for a change. And I appreciated that. We have to get back to that. It's so important. But I just want to say it's a pleasure to be with you, and we're going to have lunch, and we'll take a couple of questions from the news, and I'm sure they'll be extremely non-hostile and friendly. Like JD went through a very friendly interview with George Slobodanopoulos, who was nice enough to pay me $16 million the last time we came. He had to pay $16 million to me, which was good. It was worth having somebody lie. If you get $16 million, that's good. But JD had a very nasty person interviewing him, and we can't let that happen. Just as inappropriate to cut off a highly respected vice president of the United States mid-sentence. I guess it's one way to win an argument. That was the only way he was going to win the argument. So it was pretty inappropriate. I want to tell you that. So thank you very much. Do you have something there?
Yes.
Oh, good. Thank you.
Sí. Quería
Yeah.
darle.
I'll get it. That's fantastic. Thank you very much.
And when he did this letter, Mr. President, your settlement in the Middle East wasn't done. So we have to do a new letter.
Let's do that.
To include that, because this is a very important.
You'll have to add one extra sentence.
Exactly.
That's good. Thank you very much. This is such a beautiful statement. Thank you very much. It's beautiful. Thank you.
Mr. President. Mr. President, how is this?
Why don't we talk about Argentina first? And then go ahead. How is Argentina going?
Mr. President, how is this
China in Argentina?
Go ahead.
How is this Argentina rescue package America first? And is this rescue package meant to help President Milei's party in the coming election?
No, it's helped. It's really meant to help a good financial philosophy where Argentina can, after 20 years of disaster, because it was very successful at one point, and it can be again, like Venezuela. Venezuela was very, very successful, and now it's a dictatorship. So when we can help our neighbors, we're making tremendous progress in South America. South America, Marco was telling me, he's like our great expert here. He really knows it. But you were telling me that so many of the countries are coming our way. And we had a few years ago, when I just came back, so I've been here now almost 9 months, but when I just came in, I was amazed to see how poorly we've done. We lost so many, and one of them was Argentina, would be lost if he wasn't there. And I think he will be there because the people recognize he's done an amazing job. He took over a real mess. So did I take over a mess. I took over a mess by, the Biden group. And Obama he started it. I'll tell you, Barack Hussein Obama started it. Could you give a couple of words on South America? You were telling me so well yesterday how well we're doing. Go ahead.
Well, first of all, we have now 8 or 9, 10 countries, Argentina being foremost among them, that have aligned with the United States on issue after issue in international community events all over the world. They're, in fact, these great allies like Argentina, but I can go into others, Costa Rica, I don't want to leave anybody out, El Salvador, but I think one of the more promising developments is later this month, there'll be an election in Bolivia after 25, 30 years of anti-American hostile government. Both of the candidates running in that election and the runoff election want strong, better relations with the United States and another transformative opportunity there. But so I think this is important. This is our hemisphere. It's where we live. And having strong neighbors such as this.
And great progress has been made, really.
And we'll make more. Absolutely.
Over the last 9 months. Really over the last 9 months. Yeah, please.
Mr. President, from Argentina,
Yes.
do you imagine soon a free trade
agreement with Argentina. Would it be possible soon? Yeah, it will be. Well, we're going to discuss some of it today, but no, we want to help Argentina, and we want to always help ourselves, but we want to help Argentina. And one of the ways we can do, they have great product, and we used to do a lot of trade. And then if you look at what the Democrats, well, they didn't know. They didn't know. Honestly, they didn't know what they were doing. But a lot of that trade disappeared, and they have great product. So we will be trading with Argentina, and it'll be helpful to them, and it's helpful. It's good for us also.
Is China trying to draw a wedge between U.S. and Argentina by buying soybeans from Argentina and not U.S. farmers?
I would say so.
And China on
China likes to draw wedges. Yeah, sure. I mean, I guess that's natural. It's China, and it's natural, but it's not gonna mean anything in the end.
Mr. President, from Argentina, should Argentina end the China swap and close the space base in Neuquén?
I don't think you should be doing business much with. You can do some trade, but you certainly shouldn't be doing beyond that. Certainly shouldn't be doing anything having to do with the military with China. And if that's what's happening, I'd be very upset about that. Yeah.
What about
You
the
understand
swap?
that, Scott, right?
Mr. President,
You do understand.
Mr. President, what about the swap? Because it's so important for Argentina, the swap.
Okay, go
The
ahead.
central bank.
The American assistance is not predicated on the swap with China being closed. Any reporting to that effect is incorrect.
But you said, sorry, but you said that Argentina has to export China from your business or from your agenda, and the swap is so important for Argentina.
No, I was referring more to ports, military bases, observation facilities that have been created in Argentina.
Than the swap? More than the swap?
More than the swap.
Okay.
He was referring to that. Yeah, behind you, please.
Yes, President, for Argentina, what's the benefit for United States in helping this way Argentina?
Just helping a great philosophy take over a great country. Argentina is one of the most beautiful countries that I've ever seen. And we want to see it succeed. Very simple. I mean, we don't have to do it. It's not going to make a big difference for our country, but it will in terms of South America. If Argentina does well, you're going to have others following, and a lot of others are following. You have countries in South America that 2 years ago would have never even been thought of to go as democracies or as just countries that want to do fair and balanced trading. And now you mentioned Bolivia, but Brazil, as you know, I had a very good conversation with the president. I met him at the United Nations before I went up to speak, and then I found that he didn't have a speech because I had no teleprompter. They turned off my teleprompter purposely. They made it impossible for me. But it didn't silence me. I spoke without, and it was a good speech. I mean, it was a good speech. But no, think of that. You go into the United Nations, I'm speaking in front of 158 leaders and the whole world. And I look at my teleprompter and it's dead. They killed my teleprompter. They wouldn't let the man that operated into the booth. Can you believe that?
You don't have any specific interest in economic terms for the state?
I do have. No, I want to see it succeed. I think it's going to be great, and we will benefit also. But it's not that big a benefit because it's not that big a country, but it's a very important country, and it's a country that can be very successful. There are some countries that will never be successful. This is a country that has great potential if it has the right leadership, and you have the right leadership with this man right here. Okay.
Mr. President, would you support dollarization?
I would say that I'll leave that up to my my economic people, but I like the dollar. I'm very strong on the dollar. And anybody who wants to deal in dollars, they have an advantage over people that aren't. But for the most part, we're keeping it that way. I think if Biden would have, that group would have gotten elected, meaning Kamala, you wouldn't have the dollar as your currency anymore. You wouldn't have a world domination by the dollar if I didn't win this election. And now the domination, like BRICS. I told anybody wants to be in BRICS, that's fine, but we're going to put tariffs on your nation. Everybody dropped out. They're all dropping out of BRICS. BRICS was an attack on the dollar. And I said, you want to play that game? I'm going to put tariffs on all of your product coming into the U.S. they said, like I said, we're dropping out of BRICS. And BRICS is like, they don't even talk about it anymore. Scott, you want to add to that?
We're very happy with the current currency arrangement.
Mr. President.
Your ABC fake news, I don't want, go ahead, Brian, please.
First of all, congratulations.
I don't take questions from ABC fake news. After what you did with Stephanopoulos to the Vice President of the United States, I don't take questions from ABC fake news. Brian, go ahead.
Yes, sir. First of all, congratulations on achieving peace. You're indeed the peacemaker.
Hard to believe, right? Did you ever think I was going to be called a peacemaker?
Actually, I did.
I did too. Go ahead.
But on a lighter note, Elizabeth Farah, she is one of the hosts on ABC's show The View. She said a while back, I'll quote, "If Trump gets Israeli hostages out, I promise I will wear a MAGA hat for one day on this show and say thank you for doing it."
Well, did she put the hat on?
Well, she hasn't got the hat yet.
Who is it? Which one?
Elizabeth Farah.
Oh, yeah. Well, she used to work for me. So she used to work here. I'll tell you about Alyssa. She worked here. She gave me the most beautiful letter when, the administration, the time came up, the election was rigged. I left. She gave me the most beautiful letter you've ever seen. I was a great president. What a great job. Some of the letters have been quoted. This is Alyssa, who I never thought was very outstanding. I figured she would not make it. And she didn't have a big role here either. And then we had January 6th. And she left after that or before that, but she gave me the most beautiful letters. And then even months after she left, and while we weren't here any longer, she sent another letter, glowing letter, beautiful letter. And then she got hired by The View, and they gave her a couple of bucks, and she changed her view very quickly. I never thought she'd make it. Never thought she had what it took in any way. You know what that means. But she's on The View. But it just shows what a fraud The View is, because this woman gave me letters and statements. She said I was the greatest president in her lifetime. Now, she's not that old, so I didn't consider it a great compliment, but I've had better.
Can we send her a hat?
Well, recently I've had the greatest president of them all. I like that much better. Because I said, does that include Washington and Lincoln? Yes, sir, it does. I said, I like that person. So I think she's a joke.
Mr. President, on Gaza, how long will it take Hamas to disarm, and can you guarantee that is going to happen?
Well, they're going to disarm, and because they said they were going to disarm. And if they don't disarm, we will disarm them.
How will you do that?
I don't have to explain that to you. But if they don't disarm, we will disarm them. They know I'm not playing games. Okay. Now, we did something monumental. We got the hostages back. That was the first thing we had to do. Above all else, get the hostages back. Now, they misrepresented because we were told they had 26, 24 of dead hostages, if we can use those terms. And it seems as though they don't have that because we're talking about a much lesser number. But that's a very tough subject. I want them back. That's what they said. I want them back. Also, they said they were going to disarm. And initially speaking, they needed, they did take out a couple of gangs that were very bad, very, very bad gangs. And they did take them out, and they killed a number of gang members. And that didn't bother me much, to be honest with you. That's okay. We had a couple of very bad gangs. It's no different than other countries. Like Venezuela sent their gangs into us, and we took care of those gangs. We have Washington, D.C. is one of the safest cities in the country. It was one of the worst cities in the country if you go back just a little while ago, right? Now it's safe. You can walk to work. Isn't it nice? But we have told them we want to disarm, and they will disarm. And if they don't disarm, we will disarm them. And it'll happen quickly and perhaps violently. But they will disarm. Do you understand me?
Yes.
Because everyone says, oh, well, they won't disarm. They will disarm. And I spoke to Hamas, and I said, you're going to disarm, right? Yes, sir, we're going to disarm. That's what they told me. They will disarm, or we will disarm them. Got it? Okay.
What is the deadline for that? Sir, you said quickly, but what is the deadline you're going to put on that?
A reasonable period of time, pretty quickly. A reasonable period of time.
Congratulations on the peace you achieved in the Middle East, first of all. And my question is regarding Argentina. Does continue?
Are you from Argentina?
I'm from Argentina, yes.
I like the Argentina. I like them much better than ABC. Than ABC fake news.
Me too, sir.
Yes, go ahead.
Does continued U.S. support for Argentina depend on the results of the upcoming legislative elections and the ability of the government to pass long-lasting reforms through Congress?
Well, I think if they don't do that, we're not going to be around very long. Scott, can you handle that one, please?
We're confident that the president's party will and the coalition will do well in the election. And this aid is predicated on robust policies, and going back to the failed Peronist policies would cause a U.S. rethink.
Thank you very much.
It's a great question. It's a little like New York. You know, you're reading in Argentina about New York. We have a problem. We have a communist who's 33 years old, doesn't know a damn thing. Practically, he's never worked a day in his life. And he sort of caught on, right? And I'm not going to send a lot of money to New York. I don't have to. You know, the money comes all through the White House. And if they're going to be sending us stupid policies, I mean, communist policies, which is proven for thousands of years doesn't work. You know, we don't have to prove it again. We're not going to ruin one of our great cities because we'll make that great. We will clean up the crime in about 30 days. Took 12 days to do Washington, D.C., so New York is bigger. And Chicago, we've already made a lot of progress despite fighting from the government, but Chicago's doing great. Memphis is doing really great. You know, we have great support there from the political leaders. They said, please come in and clean up crime. And we love it. We've in 1 week, Memphis is so good. It's so much better. We'll have it within a month. We'll have that into a safe city again. And all of these cities, we want to clean them up. We don't like that opposition. But if somebody's going to be a communist mayor of New York, it's a fluke if he gets in. There are a lot of failed people that he's running against. I mean, we have inferior candidates or something, because it's impossible to think that New York City can have a communist mayor. He's a communist. He's not a socialist, by the way. There's a big difference. He's a communist. He's down and dirty. He's a communist. He hates police. He wants to get rid of all police. I mean, how can a policeman? He hates Jewish people, and yet he's got Jewish people supporting. He hates Jewish people. So it comes through the White House. The funding for New York and for every place comes through the White House. And I'm very generous. And I was always very generous with New York, even when you had opposition there, but I was always very generous. But I wouldn't be generous to a communist, a guy that's going to take the money and throw it out the window, because you're talking about hundreds of billions of dollars. And we're not going to let somebody get into office and squander the taxpayer money from this country. We're not going to let it happen. So it's a little bit like that with, if you take a look at Argentina, if the president doesn't win, I know the person that he'd be running against, I believe, we probably have the person. The person is extremely far left and a philosophy that got Argentina into this problem in the first place. So we would not be generous with Argentina if that happened. If he loses, we are not going to be generous with Argentina.
Mr. President, you talk about the Argentina and important in the Latin American. What is your plan for Venezuela? But is the terrorism, the narco-terrorism in the President Maduro? What is your plan?
Well, Venezuela's done a couple of things very badly. Number one, we get drugs and all of that, but we get something in a way worse, because they're a big purveyor of drugs, but we have worse. What they do very well is they send their criminals into the United States, and they send Tren de Aragua, that you know very well. You're from Venezuela, I assume. And they send them in by the thousands, literally. And these are the worst of all. And they emptied their prisons into the United States. They empty their mental institutions into the United States. And because we had a president who's low IQ, he didn't realize what was going on. And the people that are high IQ that surround him, but they happen to be lunatics, radical left, they're highly intelligent, radical left lunatics, okay? So in a way, that's worse than having a guy like Biden. But they ran the show. You heard about the AutoPen. The person that really operated the AutoPen, but it was really the people that told the person that operated the AutoPen what to do. Those are the people that really were president, okay? So we're not going to stand for it in this country. And by the way, that AutoPen thing is under serious investigation. Just this, I don't think you care because you're from Argentina. You couldn't care less about that. But I just want to say, because I do the weave, you know, the weave. cover a lot of different subjects. But the people that are involved in that auto pen scam, because he barely signed anything. I mean, this guy, I don't know how you can be president. He barely signed it. But the only thing we can find for sure is that he signed Hunter's pardon, his pardon. Hunter's pardon. I like that. That's a good combination. So we're going to work very much with the president. We think he's going to win. He should win. And if he does win, we're going to be very helpful. And if he doesn't win, we're not going to waste our time, because you have somebody whose philosophy has no chance of making Argentina great again.
What's your advice for Mr. President?
Steve, go ahead. Steve.
What's your advice for
Steve, go ahead.
Check something. You said Hamas assured you that they would disarm. Was that a direct conversation or through
my people?
Mr. Witkoff or?
Through my people.
Okay.
At the highest level.
What's your advice?
And it was meant for me.
What's your advice for President Milei and Argentina as a political leader?
My advice is to hold strong to his principles, because he's right, and he's proving that he was right. He's got one problem. He's got people that are giving him tremendously bad press, even though they know it's wrong. He's got to hold true to his principles, because he's going to win. He's going to win. He's doing the right thing. Everybody knows he's doing the right thing, but you have a radical left sick culture that's a very dangerous group of people, and they're trying to make him look bad. I believe he's going to win out.
And what about the rivalry with China in the south?
China?
China is,
Well, you have to be careful with China. Look, everybody deals with China. They have to deal with us too. We have to be careful with China. Look, I have a great relationship with President Xi, but sometimes it gets testy because China likes to take advantage of people, and they can't take advantage of us. But we have a fair relationship with China, and I think it'll be fine. And if it's not, that's okay too. You have to do and go where the punches are thrown. You got to put up the blocks. We have a lot of punches being thrown, and we've been very successful. Look, we have the most success. I think we're the most successful we've ever been as a country. We have now close, I've been saying 17, we have, I think, close to, or maybe even exceeding $18 trillion going to be invested in the United States. That's more money than ever invested in any country before. Even countries with much bigger populations like India or like China, nobody's ever had $18 trillion invested in the country. We have, and that's because of November 5th election, because I won. Oh, if she won, you'd be negative. You'd have people getting out of the country. This country would have been in a major depression. If she won, we would have been 1929. They'd like to see that anyway. That's why they keep the government closed. They have a shutdown based on nonsense. They want to give away 1.5, think of it, they want to give away $1.5 trillion to people that come into the country illegally. And as you know, the borders now are closed. But when they hear that they get the greatest healthcare package in the world and they have no money, but they're living okay in another country, they head up and they start forming caravans and they try and come into our country. But the big problem is they want to give health care to people that should not get health care. They want to give health care to illegal immigrants by the millions. Look at Gavin Newsom, what he's done. He's ruined California, gives health care to anybody. And I guess they do it for votes. I actually think it's bad politics, but I guess they do it for votes. So I'm with this man because his philosophy is correct. And he may win and he may not win, but I think he's going to win. And if he wins, we're staying with him. And if he doesn't win, we're gone.
How can Argentina can help to the peace process, to the Middle East peace process?
They can help by doing well. If Argentina does well, that's helpful because they know we help Argentina. So if Argentina is successful, that's great because they view us as somebody that helped Argentina and they did well, and the United States maybe will help them and they're going to do well. So the success of Argentina would be a great feather in the cap of the USA because we're helping them, right? You understand?
Yeah.
Yeah, please, behind you. Behind you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Last week you said that NATO should consider expelling Spain.
What?
You said that NATO should consider expelling Spain. Would you support that?
What?
NATO consider expelling Spain.
Oh. I'm very unhappy with Spain. They're the only country that didn't raise up their number to 5%. Every other country in NATO raised up to 5%. And Spain is doing very well off our backs. So I'm not happy with Spain. Spain gets protection, and they know, look, they're sort of in the semi-middle of it, so they're going to get protected automatically. Even if you don't want to protect him, you're protecting him because of the way they're located. And I think what Spain did is a very bad thing for NATO. I think it's very unfair to NATO. It wouldn't matter if you said you're not going to protect them because they're pretty much protected. What are you going to do? Go through the other countries and let's go attack Spain, right? So I think what they did is not nice. I think it's very disrespectful to NATO. In fact, I was thinking about giving them trade punishment through tariffs because of what they did. And I may do that. I think unbelievably disrespectful. Spain, the only one out of all the countries in NATO, the only one that said that is Spain. And I think I think they should be punished for that. Yes, I do.
On the government shutdown, you have the money to pay the troops on.
I do.
Okay.
I actually have a man who is a very wealthy person. You'll know that when I tell you this, who called a donor, a great gentleman, and he said, if there's any money necessary, shortfall for the paying of the troops, then I will pay it, meaning he will pay it. How about that? I said, look, we're not going to need it. We're going to take care of our troops. But this was a position that's being forced upon us by Democrats. And all they have to do is just sign a piece of paper saying we're going to keep it going the way it is. There's nothing. It's not like it shouldn't even be an argument. They've signed it many times before. I don't want to bore you with the fact that Schumer said 100 times, you should never close up government. But Schumer's a weakened politician. I mean, he's going to finish his career as a failed politician. He's a failed politician. He's allowed the radical left to take over the Democrat Party. So if they write books about that, if they write books about him, they're going to have to say that his career ended by allowing the radical left to take over the party. I mean, I won an election in a landslide because people are not into the radical left, and the Democrat Party is. People didn't want to see men playing in women's sports. They didn't want to see transgender for everybody. They didn't want to see all of the different things that they do that's so crazy. Open borders. I mean, the worst thing that he did to us, not inflation, because we fixed inflation. Prices are way down. I don't know if you saw that gasoline went to 58 just now did you see what's going on with gasoline? No, $58 a barrel. Nobody can believe it. I'm very proud of that. You know why? Because we're pumping like we've never pumped before. Because if you get the gas price down, everything else comes down. It's very simple. And he went away from my policies, and you had the greatest inflation. The last administration had the greatest inflation in the history of our country. And now, as you know, groceries are down. It's all down.
But on the shutdown, are you settling in for is this going to be a long term?
It's up to them. All they have to do is just vote to extend. We don't need it. We're not saying we want money. All we need is a right to extend. They want a right to extend, but they want $1.5 trillion so they can give it away to illegal immigrants, the people that are invading your cities. And many of these people, for whatever reason, I mean, I understood this. I called it a long time ago. These countries are run by people I know. Friends of mine, like I know this gentleman. I hope you haven't sent. He probably did too. Why not? They send up their worst people. They send up people that are criminals. They send up people from jails. And at best, the best ones they send up are people that don't work very hard and that are on a social form of welfare. And they're sending those people into the United States. I don't blame them. I'm angry at them, but I don't blame them. But I'm really angry at Biden and Kamala and that group of lunatics for allowing it to happen, because it's the hardest thing. Now, we're sending them out. It's incredible the job that Christie and Tom Homan and the whole group is doing. But we shouldn't have to be doing that. We're doing a lot of work on getting people out of here. Tren de Aragua has caused tremendous damage. And our soldiers are great. You know, our soldiers are now based on merit. They're not based on woke, because we won the case in the Supreme Court, which was the bravest case. I have such respect for the Supreme Court because of what they did with merit, because our country was built on merit. Countries are destroyed on woke. You know, I made a statement and I hated to make it because it sounded bad, but everything turns to, you know what, when it goes woke. You remember the term. I don't like to use it because you might have some children listening, but it turns bad. And no, we have the hottest country right now anywhere in the world. That's why he's here. That's why every other country wants to meet here too. But we only have so many hours in the day and days in the week. But we get the hottest country. Think of it. We were a dead country a year and a half ago. And now we have the hottest country anywhere in the world. It's pretty good. Did a good job. Okay, any other questions? Go ahead, you.
Would you like to visit Argentina soon? There is an invitation for that.
What does that mean?
Do you like to visit Argentina?
I do. I would love to. I'm just a little busy. I would love to. I'd love to go to Argentina. I'd like to be like Biden. I'd like to go to the beach. You know, my legs are not quite as thin as his. My legs are slightly heavier. My arms are slightly larger. My body is a little bit larger than his. I'm not sure it would be appreciated on the beach, but I'm not going to take a chance. You won't see me in a bathing suit. You won't see in a bathing suit sitting on a beach in Argentina, falling down, not being able to lift a 3-ounce chair, meant for old people to lift, and he couldn't lift it, so he had a problem. He spent too much time on a beach. Somebody told him that he looked good in a bathing suit. And you'd see this guy on the beach all the time. I never quite understood it. Steve, go ahead.
Preview your meeting with Ukraine President Zelensky on Friday. Do you expect to talk about weapons?
Yeah, no, we have an interesting meeting going on. Look, I'm very disappointed because Vladimir and I had a very good relationship, probably still do. I don't know why he continues with this war. This war has been so bad for him. He's going into 4 years of a war that he should have won that war in 1 week. He's now going to soon be into his 4th year. He's lost 1.5 million soldiers, probably close. Certainly in terms of wounded and no legs and no arms and all the things that happen in horrible wars. It's a horrible war. That's the biggest thing that's happened since World War II in terms of death. It's bigger than any of them. I settled 8 of them. The biggest is that in terms of death. Incredible. I think India, Pakistan had great potential too. We did a great job in that one, but he's got to really settle this war. And you know, they have long lines waiting for gasoline in Russia right now, right? They have long lines. Who thought that was going to happen? And all of a sudden his economy is going to collapse. And I'd like to see him do well. I mean, I had a very good relationship with Vladimir Putin, but he just doesn't want to end that war. And I think it's making him look very bad. He could end it. He could end it quickly. And I have to tell you, I give credit because who would think that Ukraine could have fought Russia for 4 years to essentially a standstill? Now, there has been some early, you know, before they knew what the hell was happening, because it happened quick. Biden should have never let that happen. That's a war that should have never happened, but it did. But it's not making Russia look good, I will tell you that. We'll be talking about Ukraine, yeah. I mean, I have the president coming in on Friday, and I know what he has to say. He wants weapons. He would like to have tomahawks. Everyone else wants stuff. And we have a lot of tomahawks. Tomahawk is do you need any tomahawks in Argentina?
You can cross Moscow tomahawks.
You need them for your opposition, I guess, because see, in this country, they'd use tomahawks for the opposition. I don't do that. I'm much nicer. The Democrats would use them if they had the chance. They're sick people. Go ahead.
President, are you worried that this plan with Argentina can fail?
Anything can fail. Anything can fail. You never know. That's why I say Putin should do something about the war, because so far, I mean, it's turned out to be very bad for him. But anything can. So this plan can fail. Sure, it can fail, but it's got a better chance. I would say, Scott, it's got a better chance of success than failure. And if it's successful, it's an unbelievable success. It can transform your country into greatness. It's got a great chance. we'd like to give it a chance. Anything can fail, but would like to give it a chance. And we think because he's made so much progress. I mean, the work that he's done over the last 4 years is incredible. And it would be a shame to lose that progress. He's very close to having a big success.
Mr. President, will you consider removing restrictions on the press that report at the Pentagon? And have you spoken to Secretary Hickson about this?
I have, yeah. Well, he's finding, I think I can speak for him. I'll let him speak for himself, but I think he finds the press to be very disruptive in terms of world peace and maybe security for our nation. Press is very dishonest. Not you, but the press is very dishonest. You have something to say, Pete?
Well, I very much appreciate the question because it was interesting to watch. We had a chance to go along on the historic trip of Middle East peace, which our generation of veterans never dreamed would be possible. So you would think that the Pentagon press corps of all press corps would be front and center across the board on wanting to give credit to the president for forging this kind of peace. And instead, what they want to talk about is a policy about them, which simply says maybe the policy should look like the White House or other military installations where you have to wear a badge that identifies that you're press, or you can't just roam anywhere you want. It used to be, Mr. President, the press could go anywhere, pretty much anywhere in the Pentagon, the most classified area in the world. Or also that if they sign on to the credentialing, they're not going to try to get soldiers to break the law by giving them classified information. So it's common sense stuff, Mr. President. We're trying to make sure national security is respected, and we're proud of the policy.
You know, we have an option here as you know, the press years ago moved into the White House. It used to be across the street. We could move them. You're lucky I'm president because we could move them very easily across the street. They used to be there. They would have more room. We have a beautiful, nice space. You can sit all by yourselves and have fun. Instead, you walk around the White House talking to anybody that can breathe. And, you know, but I find that when it comes to war, and now our great Department of War, we have some great people over there. I think it bothers me to have soldiers and even, you know, high-ranking generals walking around with you guys on their sleeve, asking them, because they can make a mistake, and a mistake can be tragic. They can do it innocently too. They can, you know, and they're not press people. They don't really deal with the press, so they're not really necessarily good at it. Although I think it's mostly instinctual one way or the other. You're either good at things or you're not. But I could see you being bothered by that. And so you have them in an area and you treat them fairly, but they're not allowed to go into
much like the
somebody's office and sit with them for 10 hours.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I can understand.
Mr. President, Boston
Go ahead.
had some street takeovers that we saw. Is the mayor going to work with or try and work with the mayor of Boston? And then they have a World Cup. They have several World Cup games. I know Argentina has World Cups. They have several World Cup games. Could those games move to cities that do work?
It could. We could take them away. I love the people of Boston. I know the games are sold out, but your mayor is not good. They're worse than her. At least she's intelligent. You know, some are extremely low IQ. Those bother me more. She's intelligent, but she's radical left. And they're taking over parts of Boston. That's a pretty big statement, right? We could get them back in about 2 seconds. All she has to do is call us. We'll go in and take them back. But she's afraid to because she thinks it's bad politically. She could take them back too. The Boston police are great. I mean, I know them. They love me. She'll never tell them to go after Trump because they love me and I love them. And I got a tremendous police vote and military vote, you know, and fireman vote, all of them. No, I think she is hurting Boston. The answer is yes. If somebody is doing a bad job, and if I feel there's unsafe conditions, I would call Johnny, the head of FIFA, who's phenomenal, and I would say, let's move it to another location. And he would do that. He wouldn't love to do it, but he'd do it very easily. He'd do it. And this is the right time to do it. If I thought Boston was doing something that was going to cause safety conditions for the World Cup, I could say the same thing for the Olympics, because, you know, we have events that are in different locations for the Olympics. It's based in LA. If I thought LA was not going to be prepared properly, I would move it to another location if I had to. On that one, I'd probably have to get a different kind of a permission, but we would do that. Gavin Newsom, he's got to get his act together, because had we not gone in at the beginning of my term, had we not gone in with a very strong, powerful force, they would have lost LA. Now, you already lost 25,000 houses to fires. You got a big scar right in the middle of the city. And that should have never happened because they should have had the water flowing in from the Pacific Northwest. All they had to do is open up the valves. He didn't want to do it. And he didn't want to do it. He says for environmental reasons. I don't believe that. But, you know, for some reason, he didn't want to do it. Lost 25,000. You had no water in the fire pumps. You had no water in the sprinkler systems in the ceilings. There were no houses. Normally, the things would go in the. You might not have lost. You might not have lost 2 houses. So if he doesn't play ball, we're going to have to be very tough with him. He's done a bad job. You know, just to finish off on that. So when we went in, we did a phenomenal job. We went in with great force, and that was the end of it. We put it out. We extinguished that fire, which was agitation, and it was a very dangerous position to be in. And we went in and did a great job. But the chief, said we could have never done this without President Trump and without the federal government coming in. Okay, that was it. He said that. Now, 2 or 3 weeks later, he said, oh, we could have done it. But he knows he couldn't. The city was going to be taken over if I didn't go in. And you have to remember that Los Angeles was going to be taken over. And we have it where the chief said it, I believe, numerous times, but that was as it was happening. That was a rough one. That was nasty. And if we saw a situation like that, yeah, we'd be forced to make a move. Boston better clean up their act. That's all I can say. Go ahead. One more question.
Mr. President, talking about
shutdowns?
Yeah, please.
Do you feel any urgency to end the shutdown in the next week, 2 weeks, or would you be fine if it stretches into November and then toward the holidays with folks not getting paid?
Well, you know, shutdown, we've had many, many shutdowns. And this is a shutdown that shouldn't have happened. A group of people brilliantly decided to make it after the election. I said, thank you very much. In other words, give it to Trump instead of Biden.